Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cindy Donaldson Show. I'm your host, Cindy Donaldson. I'm a certified high performance coach, serial entrepreneur, bucket list obsessed. In fact, I live full time in my RV traveling around the country with my partner, Dave. And I'm on a mission to ensure that everybody in my circle learns how to not only create, but live their life by design. And so today I want to share an experience that Dave and I had while we were hiking here in Arizona. We're actually boondocking, which for you non-RVers means just living off grid down near Tucson. We try really hard to go explore areas while we're traveling, and we are avid hikers. I'm not talking climbing Mount Everest, although on our bucket list is to both be able to hike to Mount Everest Base Camp. And Dave has a very good client who is actually from Nepal, and he has agreed to travel with us over there. So I have a lot more mountains to climb before I'm ready for Mount Everest. In any event, we try to get out and hike. And usually we try to get between 5 and 10 miles in like a moderate hike. So, I mean, although there's a lot of beautiful trails that are really flat, but I love the challenge of kind of pushing myself a little bit, getting a good workout, and the views are always more amazing at the summit, right? So we set out for this hike to go to see Seven Falls. It's everybody raved about it. They said it's incredibly beautiful waterfalls. You hike up this mountain, have some switchbacks. You don't have to go all the way to the summit, but you get pretty close to the top, and then you have to go down a little bit and you see these falls. So it was a pretty sunny day. And so in Arizona, it got a little warm. We also had to cross this river 4 times. Now, it wasn't up to my neck, it wasn't dangerous or anything. Most of it was at most up to my knees. And if you've been around me a hot minute, you know that I'm a klutz. So if there's a tree to run into, a rock to fall over, I'm going to find it. It is the reason that we have a very robust first aid kit in all of our hiking gear. So the first couple river, crossings that we had to do, I grabbed my poles and I maneuvered over the rocks, and it was just too stressful. So by the time we hit the third or fourth one, I was just walking through the river and my boots got soaked, and it was actually really quite refreshing, and I didn't care. I knew that we were only going to be hiking for about 8 miles, so if my feet were wet, it wasn't a game changer. It was also very busy on the trail. That's the hard part about traveling in destination areas such as Arizona in peak months. So it's March, the weather at most gets up to 80 degrees. It's, we have rain occasionally here in Arizona, but it's not bad. But the rain is the important part of this story. So again, the river wasn't really raging. We had had rain a couple days before, so it was flowing very quickly. Now, in my mind, we were going to go see these incredible waterfalls. I had Victoria Falls in my mind, and in our travels, we've experienced some amazing waterfalls. It's just really a nice treat after you hike up a mountain or hike to the end of a trail to see the beautiful water. And it was very warm. So I was looking forward to getting to the waterfalls. I heard there was a pool to take off. We actually brought my Keen sandals so I could take off my hiking boots. I was just really excited to enjoy the cool water. So again, trail was really crowded. So it took us longer to get up than we had anticipated because we were constantly having to move over to let people by. And most people really don't get the hiking rules that usually the people going up the mountain have the right of way. But there were a lot of young kids, and it was just easier and I for Dave to move over and let them get by. So we finally get to a plateau in this mountain where we could see the waterfalls. People are like, yeah, you're almost there, you're almost there. We're like, great. I could hear the water, and I was just giddy with anticipation. So we get to this bluff and we look over to our left, and the water is literally trickling over some rocks. And yes, there was a pool, and there were also a ton of people. So immediately I was like, are you kidding me? Like, we hiked up this entire mountain to see these amazing falls that people on the way down were like, oh, it's gorgeous. The waterfall is beautiful. And then I had to step back and put it all in perspective. We're in Arizona in the desert, right? And we're not in the monsoon season, which is June through like early September. In my head, because we had had several rainstorms, I was thinking this is the monsoon season, but Mr. Google meteorologist deemed me wrong. I lived back in Arizona in the 80s and I simply couldn't remember. In any event, even though the waterfalls just weren't impressive, we decided to hike the half-mile down to enjoy it. Now, it had been sunny the entire time up this mountain, and we were hot. And I was so looking forward to it. As soon as we hit that plateau, like these gray clouds came in, and it looked like it was going to rain. Like I was waiting for it. And if you've ever hiked before, especially in rocky areas or where there's a lot of clay, and stuff like that, like you don't want to be hiking down because it gets incredibly slippery. So I was a little nervous at this point. We get down by the pool. Now, as soon as the clouds happened, though, the mass exodus of the people that were down at the waterfalls started leaving. So there weren't very many people when we got down there, but I was in a tank top and I had to put my jacket on. Dave didn't bring a jacket. Hiking 101, always bring a jacket, but he didn't. And it was a little chilly. So, and all of a sudden I started feeling sprinkling of rain. So we had a couple protein bars, we rehydrated, and we decided to hit the trail again. Soon as we got out of the little canyon, we were actually hiking in a big canyon, but this little part where we had to hike back up to get on the main trail, the sun comes out again. So now we're hiking back in the sun, and like, universe, what are you telling me? So we took I think it was like, I don't know, 3.5 miles or 4 miles down the mountain. So we get back down the trail. We're not passing a lot of people going back up. And it's sunny again. And we get to the bottom. And I was like, okay, where is the sunshine in all of this? No pun intended. We got a great workout. We hiked for about 5.5 miles in an area that we had, never been to before. The scenery on the way up was gorgeous. And I have never crossed that many water crossings in a hike. And in fact, those things make me very nervous. I'm not a strong swimmer, and I have this real big fear of drowning. It's the reason I won't go on a cruise. I don't like deep sea fishing. I love the ocean to sit on the beach and, wade in. But when we were in Hawaii, where the rip tides are really strong, I wouldn't go out in the water unless I had a boogie board with me. I literally hung on to the boogie board while I was looking for fish and snorkeling. I was that afraid because I got wiped out in those waves more than once. So I was a little nervous. And again, if the person's going to fall and wipe out, it's usually me. Fun fact, I didn't wipe out. I did see several people wipe out in the water, which again, the water wasn't that cold, so it wouldn't have been horrible. It would have been a miserable hike up or down if you were completely wet, but I wear clothes that dry pretty quickly. So the getting wet part wasn't what I was worried about. It was falling, twisting a knee, whacking my head on a rock. So I made it all the way to the end of the trail without getting hurt. Like, seriously, I didn't slip and fall on anything. I didn't wipe out in the water. The scenes were incredibly beautiful. Got a nice tan without getting sunburned. And it was an amazing day. We stopped at Whole Foods after. I got an amazing salad. And then we drove an hour and a half back to our campsite. And as I was getting ready to write my email for Monday, and if you're not on my email list, get on the email list. I send it out every Monday and Thursday, words of wisdom. You can go to cindy-donaldson.com. That's a dash. Somebody asked me that before, and you can sign up there. So, okay, shameless plug over. Back to my musings on the lessons that I learned on the trail. I'm a huge manifester. I'm a daydreamer. In fact, when I was a little kid, I was the kid that got yelled at in class to pay attention. And I didn't know back then that I had ADD. It wasn't a thing. But my mind can think so clearly and envision all the senses. So when I was hiking up that mountain, I had the vision of the waterfalls. I could smell the waterfalls. I could hear it. I could taste it. I had this vision. And when I got there, it wasn't what I expected. And I didn't get upset because the journey, like I said, was incredible. And it wasn't really about the waterfalls, it was about being in nature. So when you relate that back to life, I was thinking deeply on this, and I realized that even though I have an incredible imagination and I 100% believe in manifestation, if you really focus on what you want and you're willing to do the work, the mountains that most people will consider roadblocks become molehills, and you go over and you get to the end game. You get what you want. 99% of the time, the journey is never what you expect. It's never what you expect. And those of us who have been able to accomplish hard things and overcome hard things and get, I mean, I usually do get what I want if I really want it badly enough, because I'm willing to put in the work to get there. So, but the journey is never what you expect, because that's life. People are going to interfere, life is going to interfere, the universe is going to interfere. And the secret is being able to adjust and become resilient and know that the journey is never going to be what you think it is. But that doesn't mean you don't have a game plan. But you hit a roadblock, you're like, okay, do I go left or right? And it doesn't matter which way you go, you accept it. Because if turns out that, you know, it was maybe quote unquote the wrong way, you just adjust again. So there's never, people spend so much time agonizing over, should I go left or right? It doesn't matter. The secret is to just go. But what's interesting now is the end game. So, like I said, 99% of the time I get what I want, because I just become a force and I get very focused on it and I manifest it and I can see myself in that space that I want to be. And I just go. Like, not doing it becomes not an option. And it's not because I am a super driven person, because there are people that are far more driven than I am. But it's because it's important to me. It's really important to me. And I want it badly enough to prove to myself sometimes that I can do it, like running a marathon or doing hard things or climbing up a mountain. But it also could just be that it's just something that I want. Now, sometimes though, the end game is not what you expect at all. And it's not what you originally wanted, like my waterfalls. But sometimes what you get is exactly what you need, and secretly, it's what you wanted. Now, let me break that down a little bit. Like I said before, we went on this hike to see the waterfalls. But in the end, what my soul really wanted and needed was to be out in nature, was to experience the journey, which was to get the exercise, which is to prove to myself and make me feel accomplished that even though I've gained 40 pounds and I'm 61 years old, I can still hike up those mountains. I can still do hard things. I may be a little bit slower than I used to be, but I can still do it because I want it badly enough. I just take a break, I keep moving. And life is very funny that way. The universe is very funny that way. So I want you to think back at a time where you had a big goal, and when you got to the end, it was nothing what you expected. In fact, something the complete opposite could have happened. And it might have changed the trajectory of your life in an amazing way. Yet most people don't sit and recognize that along the journey, you might have made decisions that drove you in that way. I mean, I often talk about the reticular activating system here, and it is the science backing for manifesting what you want. If you train your brain to be open to new opportunities and open to new possibilities, then what is going to happen in your life will be dramatically different than if you have a limited mindset. For instance, if I had gone up that mountain and saw the waterfalls and got all pissy and said, screw it, I'm just going to turn around and let it ruin my experience versus being open to, oh my God, like I just had 5.5 hours in nature. I'm incredibly grateful for that. The weather was incredible. I got a great workout. I got to spend time with Dave. I also got to spend time with myself, with my thoughts. We chatted with some cool people on the trail. The water was cool. I did some water crossings in the river. It was a great day. And it had nothing to do with the damn waterfalls. So I often run into people that I coach that are in jobs that really just don't serve their soul. And it doesn't matter the age, right? It doesn't matter the age. And in our society, we live to work versus working to live. It is part of our culture, where if you go to Europe, it is the complete opposite, right? And not to get into all of that right now, but think of that mindset. We're very driven to work, very capitalistic. We focus on, success is a big part of our culture. People put lots of gold stars on people who are highly successful and make a lot of money. Hang with me. There's a point here. So if somebody is in a job that they don't love and they show up every Monday completely miserable, they get anxiety on Sunday, they become not only toxic for themselves, but toxic within the whole company. So the first thing I do when I meet somebody like that or start coaching and working with them is I try to get to the bottom as to why they're so miserable. Are they just not inspired? Do they have a toxic team? Are they bored? What is it? And then the next question is, I ask, are you willing to quit that job and go do something else? Are you willing? So maybe they've asked for a raise 5 times and haven't gotten it. I'll say, if you're going in there to your boss and asking for a raise or a promotion or a change, whatever that change is that you want, like if you got that change, you'd be happy in your job, hypothetically, because nobody ever knows the future. But we're going to stick with the, the theory that if they got what they wanted, they would be happier in their job. They would be more content. Would they be willing to walk away? Is that the line in the sand if they don't get what they want? And most people are very hesitant on that because change is difficult and change is, scary and all of that. Back to the analogy of going to the waterfall. If they aren't willing to change, if they aren't willing to leave the job, if that is too scary for them and they're not ready for that, then it's all about the journey of going to work and finding what positive thing you can get out of that. If you've been at a job for 30 years and you're close to retirement and you're miserable, you're done, you want to retire, but say you get a huge pension buyout or something if you stick it out 3 more years. You don't want to be miserable for 3 years. But what I will coach somebody through at this point is, maybe there's somebody there that you can mentor. Maybe there's something that you can give back. Maybe there's something more that you can learn. If you're in your 60s, there's a lot you can learn from millennials. A lot. Trust me, there's a lot. And there's a lot millennials can learn from you. That's why I love working with diverse teams that are of all ages, because there's so much knowledge in all those areas. It's like you don't ever want to build a team with all type A personalities or on the DISC scale. You don't want all Ds or you don't want all S's. Nothing would ever get done. So this is the mountain lesson. This is the waterfall lesson. There's always something that you can pull positive out of, even horrific situations. I mean, I've gone through a lot of really bad spaces in my life. And in the moment, you often don't see the positivity. You don't see why your life took a turn in another direction. But in retrospect, you can go back and you can see the lessons, like I did when I got to the bottom of the mountain. I saw the lessons. So my challenge for you this week is to do just this. Go back in your life and find a time that the outcome didn't turn out the way you thought it was going to be. Maybe you just started a new job and it isn't what you expected. That doesn't mean that it's bad. Give it some time, unless it's really horrific and they lied to, if it's a really bad situation, then my advice would be to get the hell out of there and go do something else. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? If again, it goes back to, if you take a left when you probably should have taken a right, it doesn't matter. You took action. Good for you. Just just take another left or a right. That's what life is all about. It's a bunch of choices, left or right, yes or no. No bad or wrong thing, because you can always make other choices. The waterfall experience was quite profound for me. And I can guarantee that all of you have periods in your life where the situation that you thought you were going into was vastly different. Yet if you look back, there's something that you can learn. I've had so many jobs in my life and I've changed career paths several times, and each one has taught me something. Every person that I've come across, be it good or bad, has taught me a lesson. Like the bad, toxic people that I've had in my life, they've taught me who I don't want to be. And the good people have taught me how I want to be. So the lessons are always there. All right, go have a great week. Again, this is Cindy Donaldson. I'm a certified high performance coach, bucket list obsessed. We are here in Arizona now, loving life. And if you want more information on my coaching programs, you can go to www.cindy that's dash donaldson.com. And don't forget to sign up for that email, because it goes out every Monday and Thursday. And you can not only keep track of my RV wanderings, but there's always words of wisdom there. Have an awesome day. Bye.